So body literacy is a term that was coined by a friend of mine and a colleague. Her name's Laura Wurschler, and it was based on the fact that she had observed women in other cultures, struggling with illiteracy that was causing them to not be able to move upwards economically in life. And she was comparing it to the fact that women in the West, while they had, literacy, they lacked body literacy. They lacked an understanding of how their bodies worked. And as a result, they ended up having to deal with all kinds of health-related problems and medical issues because of it. And so the term body literacy really just means understanding your menstrual cycle, knowing your unique menstrual cycle and its nuances so that you can make informed health decisions or informed decisions about your own health care. And that's a really big deal because, I know for the US, I live here. So for me, the stats are pretty clear that, we have such a lack of sex education. We don't have our parents aren't doing a great job of educating us about how our bodies work. So we're really, I think, at operating from a place of a deficit in that we need to have this information. And so it's important for us to go out and get it ourselves.
It's crazy. I don't know if you went to school down here for high school or no?
No, just college.
Just college? Okay. So in high school down here, what they do is give you I think it's called a health class in 9th grade.
Yeah.
And all they really teach you is use protection and like the basic stuff. They don't really go deep into, they don't really go deep into like understanding your body. And I think that goes for a man too, because I think we men need to know more too at an early age because I was talking to someone earlier, like another interview, where she was saying that she started early, like with sexual things compared to other places. Like when she went to LA, people were like, you started at what age? Like they looked at her crazy, but in Florida, we kind of like, I guess we start early with stuff like that. So I do think that
there's no real education.
Yeah, there's no education behind it. And what you see as a kid, you're going to try it out.
Totally. So, I know. And it's like so funny what you just said about how we're just sort of taught to use protection and that's it. It's like the girls are told don't get pregnant and the boys are told don't get someone pregnant. And that's it. And we're terrified, girls especially are terrified of our bodies. We're terrified of getting pregnant. And then 20 years later, when we want to get pregnant, we're terrified we can't get pregnant. So we just spend our decades of our lives in limbo, just hoping that our bodies do what we want them to do, but not even knowing. I mean, just so you know, like women technically are only fertile by themselves for 24 to 48 hours every month. Like literally just a 1 to 2 day window is, is when a woman is fertile. You add sperm into that and, that's like a 5 day window where sperm can live inside of a woman's body for up to 5 days. So it makes the fertile window like 7 days technically, but like on her own, we're really only fertile for a very short period of time. And we're never told that. I've met so many women who think that they can get pregnant every single day of their cycle. So we have a major information problem here.
So during those 7 days, are you females aware that you guys are very fertile during those 7 days?
I don't think women are. That's the thing. I don't think women even realize that they're fertile just for that short time. Because just so everyone understands, basically when your ovary releases an egg, that's ovulation, that egg literally will sit in your fallopian tube waiting for a sperm cell to come and fertilize it, if that's going to happen. And it's only going to survive for about 12 to 24 hours. And then when you ovulate, there's the possibility of ovulating again within that short window because that would produce fraternal twins if they were to be, they were both to be fertilized. But then so if you were to say ovulate again within that short window, you have a 12 to 48 hour window really. So this is a really short period of time. And especially if you're trying to get pregnant, it feels really like a short window. But if you're not trying to get pregnant, it also feels equally terrifying because you don't know, most of the time women don't know when they're ovulating. So
that was my question.
That
was my original question. What I was trying to say was, do you guys feel weird? How do you know when you're like
ovulating?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. There's actually a lot of ways to tell. And again, we're just not taught this information. So basically, Just so everyone knows, basically like the first day of your period is the first day of your entire menstrual cycle. And periods usually last somewhere from 3 to 7 days. That's the norm pretty much. If it's longer than 7 days or shorter than 3 days, that's usually indicative of some kind of hormonal issue happening. And then as you are progressing towards the middle of your cycle, when ovulation typically happens, everything changes. Estrogen starts to rise, testosterone starts to rise. Estrogen actually stimulates your cervix to produce cervical fluid. So your cervical fluid changes. So you actually see this on your underwear. And like literally women think that they have a yeast infection or there's something wrong because they weren't told that this is actually what's supposed to happen. So this is like, you'll start to notice like this wetter quality cervical fluid, and usually you'll see it on your underwear or in the toilet. And that gets more and more as you get closer to ovulation. And it's just a part of what your body does. And then your sex drive usually improves. Like you'll notice there's an uptick in that, which is always nice. And then also too, you might notice ovulatory pain. So like a cramp in your abdomen, your lower abdomen, where your egg is being released. Like you might notice that, as well as like some kind of spotting sometimes. And usually that's like because the egg was released from the ovary, it might trigger like a little bit of blood spotting. So those are signs that women might notice when they're ovulating. And the other amazing thing is that our body temperatures actually change. So in the first half of your cycle before you ovulate, your temperatures are lower. When you first wake up, your basal temperature, and then after ovulation, it actually rises. So you can chart your temperature all month long and know when you've ovulated. So all of these signs we can use for very little money. Like you could just buy a thermometer and chart your basal temperature, which is your temperature first thing upon awakening, and you will see a pattern of lows and then it'll go up high. So it's incredible. And when you have that information, no one can take that away from you.
I be wondering what's wrong with like when I see girls be like they're hot like 10 minutes and then the next minute like they're cold. It's like that happened that so fast. I'm like, what is that? But why what is that?
That's so funny. I love that you said that. That's totally a different thing. I don't know. I think that we're definitely more sensitive to temperature changes than men are, possibly because, we all have thyroids, of course, but women are more prone to thyroid problems than men are, a lot more prone to them. And your thyroid regulates your body temperature. So I think, and we so it's like, we also are smaller in body mass. We might have less body fat. So things like that might mean that, we just are more sensitive to temperature changes, but our body temperature does run a little bit higher. Like for instance, women need to sleep in a lower temperature room than men to feel comfortable. So we definitely have different temperature needs.
Yeah.
For the most part.
I like the lower temperature too. I like to sleep
you do?
that too. Yeah.
I never hear this. It's always like, oh, she likes it at 65. I really like it at 75.
I don't mind it.
Give
me a blanket. Give me a blanket. Yeah. I don't mind it. Give me a blanket. I don't mind it. I sleep better in the cold. The only problem I have though is when my girlfriend puts on hot water, I'd be like, are you trying to go to hell or something? Like it's so hot.
Really? Like in the shower?
Yeah, in the shower. She loves the hot water. Like I'll be like, oh my God.
Yeah. We're all so weird. I know my boyfriend hates cold water in the shower, and I really like it super hot. So I know we can't win.
Oh, you like hot showers too?
I do. Yeah. It's like,
so it's a girl thing then. It's a woman thing then.
It has to be. Yeah.
Because every girl I know takes hot shower, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah. Of course. How can you not? But then again, you live in Florida. I know I know Florida temperatures. It's hot. I'm not trying to be scalding myself in the hot water.
Yeah. I mean, if I was in New York, I guess, like, especially wintertime, it makes sense to do hot shower, yeah. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on, like, the TV shows like 16 and Pregnant?
Oh, my gosh.
Do you think that's educating? Do you think it's educating women, or is it are you pro or against it?
That's a great question. I've never been asked that. And it's funny because I was just looking at Hulu yesterday and that one of those shows was recommended for me. It was like a teenager pregnancy type situation. And, I just feel really sad when I see these shows, and it's not because I pity anyone or anything like that. It's just that, again, for me, I find that it's a situation where these kids, because they're kids, they don't understand how their bodies work. And so they get themselves into a situation that makes life extremely hard for them. And so I feel bad for the situation, because I also get the sense that there's a little bit of exploitation of these really young kids.
That's what I feel. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I can't say nothing because some of these kids from like episodes that I seen, like I used to get mad when my girlfriend watched those type of shows, because I'd be like, I feel like it's like putting negative things in your head sometimes. But so you can't help it when somebody watches the show or not, because it's kind of like compelling to like watch it.
It is.
But
Yeah, it's hard to take your eyes off of it.
yeah, so like some of the people that I see, like you see, like they really needed the money. So like I can't be the person to be like, okay, why was that person go on the show? Because that show probably saved a lot of kids' life, because they didn't have nothing, like they had no support really, like financially or people. And from what it looks like the show's helping the kids too, and their family, and the kid grow up and everything like that. So
I
yeah.
completely agree. I know. I completely agree with you. I do think there's exploitation, and I do think that there's, taking advantage of a situation that is potentially out of these kids' control. I mean, when you think about the fact that teenagers, their cognitive function is not fully developed. We've all been teenagers. We know how this works. In fact, it doesn't fully develop until you're in your mid-20s.
Yeah, I
And
think it's
so
like 25 or something like that.
yeah, it's like 25 to 27. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you're making these decisions that, you wouldn't make when you're older, likely. And I get it. Like, I understand it, but I also feel like, how do we educate kids about their bodies? Like, how do we teach them fertility awareness, understanding how their menstrual cycles and their fertility work, so that they don't have to get themselves into this situation if they don't want to. And I always use an example is Holland. They start sex education from kindergarten, from really young age, and it's appropriate sex education. Obviously, it's like body understanding, and their instances of teen pregnancy and girls and boys having sex before they're ready and all of that are significantly lower than in the US. And so we can't just keep pushing abstinence and lack of education and fair on kids and think that that is going to be a suitable way forward.
So do you feel like if America had more education when it comes to like body literacy, like you were just talking about, do you think there'll be less kids being made?
I mean, yeah, I think maybe less babies, less abortions. I mean, it really just, it so depends. But yeah, I really do. I mean, based on the statistics and the information available for countries, like I was, just citing Holland, like that is definitely a thing. And so I think there's just more empowerment. Like there's more understanding and relating to your body, so that you're not put in a situation that you are not comfortable in. And I do really think that there's something to be said for that. It's like we have a situation right now where there are so many teenagers having kids. And I know that those numbers have dropped significantly, but I still think that there just needs to be comprehensive education reform. Like that's how I see it. And when we teach girls this information, they then get to decide, whether they're going to get pregnant or not. Like they get to be a decision maker in the future of their health. And that to me is like, that's my goal. That would be my goal.
Yeah. You know what they say? They say women mature faster than men.
So they say.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I mean, yes, I do. I would agree with that to some degree. I mean, I know that there's research on that, but like, we're all still teenagers. We're all making interesting decisions.
What are your thoughts on 'cause I already know where you stand at with birth control. So
yeah, it
explain
depends on the type of birth control.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. So let's get into the different type of birth controls, and what are your thoughts on them?
Yeah. This is a really good question, and it's complicated because I'm fully in the belief that we should all use the type of birth control that we feel comfortable using. But at the same time, I recognize that the types of birth control that are on the market and available are, they're not the greatest. And so like I was talking about with ovulation, basically all birth control methods that are out there right now are hormonal based birth control methods, and their mechanism is to shut down ovulation. And so for the most part, the burden of birth control falls at women's feet, and this is, you know, part of a much bigger problem, I think. But ultimately, I think that we have to be educated about the birth control options that are out there. And that's also another issue, is that doctors don't really sit with their patients and say, well, you know, here, I'm going to lay all of these out for you. And these are the risks with XYZ birth control. So for the most part, the pill is still one of the most popular forms of birth control. And it's been on, you know, it's been around since 1960. And it makes sense because, you know, it just sort of feeds into the cultural narrative that popping a pill is the easiest thing to do. So the pill is really popular, but other ones that have become super popular are IUDs, the implant that goes into your arm, the Nuva ring, things like that. And those are, you know, very convenient and easy because, you know, it's just like put in and then it's done, and it, you know, can last for many years in some cases. And the problem though is that we're turning off ovulation. We're turning off this vital process in our bodies where, you know, it's responsible for making all of these hormones that decide how our bones, like how strong our bones will be, decide like how well our cardiovascular system is going to work, our cognitive function, our brain health, our moods. All of these are potential side effects with these hormonal birth control options. So it's like, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place because, again, we want to make sure that girls and women get birth control options that make sense for them and their needs. But at the same time, you know, we're turning off, like we're shutting down a huge part of their endocrine system. And that has long lasting, far reaching effects, not only for their overall health, but their fertility as well. But then there's this other method called there's multiple methods, but they're known as the fertility awareness based methods. And so these are commonly mixed up with the rhythm method, which is debunked and doesn't work. But fertility awareness based methods is exactly what I was just talking about. You can take your temperature, you can look at your cervical fluid, you can pay attention to your symptoms, and you can know when you're ovulating and when you're fertile versus when you're not. And so that's really what I would love to teach everyone, really, like no matter your gender. Like I would want to teach that in schools because that information, again, is so vital and it's life-changing.
That should be like a basic health care 101, like how you go take a shower, you should be doing that on daily.
Right? I know. Isn't it funny? I mean, it's kind of like why do we teach algebra in high school? Why don't we teach accounting or how to manage your money or something like that? We're never really actually taught anything that's very useful, are we?
No, it's just a whole bunch of, well, I mean, some classes I understand, but then some of the classes I'm like, what are we paying for this for? Like, why are we going through this again? Totally. Yeah, it's crazy.
I agree, especially when you're paying for it. I agree. It sucks.
Yeah, I don't blame people that drop out that have to pay for the classes, because if you look at the numbers, like, and you're asking a kid, like most people that are going to college are not, they don't have money. If they have money, they would have been in Harvard or something like that.
No kidding. I know.
So you're expecting them to, like, I don't know what you expect them to do, but
that's like
I wanted
such a huge problem, isn't it? Like, I completely agree with you. That was my biggest, because I was an international student, and so I didn't qualify for in-state fees, and I was like, am I really?
Oh, I feel bad for you then. Dang, it's like double. It's like double for you.
Well, I can't believe it was like triple. Actually, I think Florida residents at the time were paying $400 for a class, and I was paying like $1,250 or something like that.
What you was doing, working at the same time while going to school?
No, I spent years saving money to go to college. Like it was, because I'd come from another country, and that was, it was just kind of like, well, we'll just see what happens. I don't know. But then I would go home and I'd work all summer and just try and figure it out. And then I managed to get they had a thing actually where they have a linkage program between some of the Caribbean islands and Florida, the Florida government. And there was a qualification to get some of your classes as in-state or some of your credits as in-state credits. So I qualified for that, thankfully, and then managed to get myself a scholarship from the Antiguan government. So yeah, I always just pieced it together, but yeah, it was brutal.
Yeah, that's crazy. I want to talk about, since we're just talking about IUDs, I know sometimes IUDs inside women, it can fall out. I heard too.
Yeah. Yes, they can. I know.
And
It's
there's
terrifying.
times where they can't find it. It's like, I guess where it becomes part, like it becomes part of the skin or something like that, and they have to use a camera to go in there.
Yes. Yeah. So IUDs can do that. So they can migrate, and I've actually had multiple clients and friends even who have had to have them surgically removed.
Oh,
This is not, this is considered a rare occurrence or a rare complication, but it still happens, and people should know. And that's part of what I talk about with informed consent. Like, you should know the risks of the birth control that you're trying. So yes, IUDs can definitely move in your body. Not, they can't end up in your lung or anything like that, but they can move in your pelvic cavity, and they can also perforate your uterus. So which can cause a big problem, a lot of pain. So I always say to anyone, if they've got ongoing pain or extreme bleeding or spotting or
is this
bleeding
during
outside
or
of,
after? Is this during or
oh,
after?
during when you have
Uh,
when you have an IUD in. Yeah, exactly. So if you have these symptoms, then you should definitely go to the doctor immediately and figure out what's going on with your IUD. But yeah, like that's a big problem. And then also, yes, it can be expelled. So they call it expulsion. And yeah, the IUD can come out of you. And that I found, like, just with clients and over the years, is that it happens because your body is literally rejecting it. It's like,
oh
this is a
wow.
foreign object. We do not want this thing in our uterus. You got to try something else. And so, yeah, like, it is one of those things that can definitely happen, and women should be aware of it.
It's crazy how our body works for us. You see how it works for us like that? How you just said that?
Right? I know they do. I know our bodies definitely do.
Okay. And I actually was one time I had sex with a girl where I was feeling the IUD at some points,
Yeah.
and it was cutting me. Like I was like, what is this? So
Yeah.
that can happen too if you dating a woman with IUD.
Yes. The strings. It's
Yeah,
probably those. Yeah.
it's yeah. That's what the doctor was saying. But
Yep.
yeah, when I was doing, like,
I know.
I never had to deal with
Ouch.
that before. So when it did happen, I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, that hurts. Ow. Yeah, I've never
Yeah.
had an IUD, so I don't know what the experience is like. But the problem too is that this is the other thing that's commonly overlooked, and women don't even realize this, is that the microbiome in your uterus is different to the microbiome or the bacteria that lives in your vaginal canal, and they're separated by your cervix. But your IUD is in your uterus, and then the string hangs down through your cervix into your vaginal canal, which is what you were feeling. And that, it's like a highway for bacteria. So it can, a lot of women struggle with bacterial vaginosis and other bacterial infections because of their IUDs. And so this is something too that, there's no way to fix that unless you have it removed.
Is it common for a woman to have yeast infection? Like, is that very common?
Yeah, it's huge. It's a really big issue. And like I was saying, it's big when you have an IUD, but because we have such an epidemic of like gut health problems in our society, it's sort of like a transference almost. Like when you heal your gut, usually your vaginal microbiome starts to get back, get back to where it should be. But, we run into issues with a couple of different things, like bacterial imbalances can happen. A lot of women use vaginal care products like, that are, like Summer's Eve and douches and things like that. Still, feminine wipes, creams, washes, all of this stuff is full of chemicals, and it completely changes the pH of your whole of everything, your whole vagina, everything. And so what you end up having is like this pH imbalance, and that triggers the overgrowth of harmful or pathogenic bacteria. And then you get this chronic yeast infection situation or chronic bacterial vaginosis or something like that. So yeah, it's a big problem. And so I always encourage women to stop using that stuff. It will totally ruin you down there. And then also too,
I've heard that.
hi Lisa.
Hi,
Hi.
sorry.
That's okay. Yes, it's a big issue. And then also too, like conventional pads and tampons, they're full of chemicals. And they're also made of plastics, basically. They're not cotton. You have to look for organic cotton products. And, those are becoming much more popular. But the point is that when you are using these products, there's like vaginal tissue is super absorbent. So you're leaching all of these chemicals into your body through that tissue. And then it's also causing problems for your vaginal bacteria. So yeah, big problem. It's like epidemic, actually. I know. Roosevelt's
so
like, oh my God.
yeah.
I know. He's like, what is going on?
Yeah. I mean, I was raised by women. Yeah,
Yes.
I was raised by women, so like I see things, I hear things, and I seen them as they growing up too. So I'm pretty familiar with certain things when it comes to like female body parts and stuff like that. But
Yeah, I'm really impressed by these questions, by the way. I have never had this conversation with another guy.
yeah, you know,
Leave it to Roosevelt.
Clearly.
Yeah, I'm pretty educated on the topic.
Clearly you are. You know what to ask.
Yeah, so we were just talking about the pill. So what's your advice for a woman to recover from the pill? Like what should they do to recover from the pill?
Oh, I feel like you have all day because that's kind of what it might take. But I do, I think that it depends on how long you've been on the pill for, what you went on the pill for in the first place. Like, were you on it for birth control, or did you have all kinds of period problems? Because that's the issue, is that so many women are prescribed the pill not for birth control, but for acne and irregular cycles and heavy periods.
Yeah, I had it for my endometriosis before my hysterectomy. So yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay.
That's what it's called, hysterectomy. That's what I was trying to. I couldn't remember what it was.
Roosevelt was like, Lisa had something done and she doesn't get a period anymore. What could that be? And I was like,
so I had a total hysterectomy. That is what I had.
Okay. Because of endometriosis.
Yes. And I have the BG gene. So just to eliminate that, I had like the worst periods and, the endless pain. I did do the laparoscopic surgeries probably like 4 or 5 times. Tried like everything, honestly, and nothing helped, nothing worked. It was like the cysts rupturing, everything. So yeah, it was just kind of like nothing helped. So yeah, they said total was the way to go. So
my question is
menopause.
How what's the original cause for all that? That's what I wanted to ask you, Nicole. Like what? Like I'm pretty sure you're educated on that. So what's the original cause for all that?
I got a few thoughts. First of all, thank you for telling me that, because I do think that this is, that's basically the only solution that's really offered, which sucks. And when endometriosis is so complicated, for anyone who doesn't know what it is, it's basically an inflammatory condition that impacts mostly the organs in your pelvic region. So your uterus, your fallopian tubes, your ovaries, your pelvic cavity, and as well as your bowels. It can impact that too. And so essentially what happens is lesions grow on these areas of your body, and they are super painful. They're responding to hormonal fluctuations that are happening with your cycle, but they're also just like responding to whatever's happening in your body. So in my world, what we say is that endometriosis is not a uterine problem. It's actually a systemic, system-wide inflammatory problem. And so when we're inflamed, which so many of us are, because, this is like the modern world, and, diets aren't great. Our gut health is really compromised. The quality of our water isn't great. I mean, there's lots of issues. And so what happens is anyone who's prone to, because there is certainly a genetic component to endometriosis as well. And so if someone is prone to endometriosis genetically, then yes, like endometriosis can develop. And then as a result, you end up in a situation where you are dealing with chronic pain, like heavy bleeding is another one, painful sex, like all kinds of stuff can happen.
Yeah.
So it is one of those. Yeah. Right. I mean, I know you know this. Obviously,
oh yeah.
Like you lived this. This is your
lived
and
I think
it's
like people don't really understand like how bad it really can get. Like I wouldn't be able to even leave the house when I had my period. I would not leave my house. Like there was just no way I was going to leave my house.
Right.
Like I wouldn't be able to work. I couldn't do anything. And so, yeah, it kind of sucks because afterwards, it's like, well, I mean, luckily I was blessed to be able to have a daughter. So I don't have to worry about, the fact that I can't have any more children. And I do have 2 amazing stepchildren at the same time. But it does, I kind of wish that I don't think people get the menopause is when the minute you wake up. Like the minute I woke up, it was full action, and it doesn't stop, it doesn't end, and it's sometimes I don't know whether that's worse than the actual, endometriosis and all the things I had beforehand, because it's just so much changes, your sex life, your whole body, your mentality, and then it's like finding the hormones that work, finding the ones that don't. Like right now, I currently don't take any because I just couldn't find any that made me feel anything other than not normal. So, now that I don't take them, I actually feel fine, and I eat healthy. I had to be vegan for a while after the surgery because I couldn't even keep meat in my system or anything like that. So I did have to, I don't eat meat at all now either, because I just, my body won't tolerate it. I don't know if it's from a lack of hormones or what it is, but, so I'm still in, I don't know if the menopause is better or if just keeping everything in would have been better, because it does get, especially living in South Florida, it's really hot. Yeah. And it changes just everything, your hair, your skin, your body. So, I'm 30 years old. So normally people don't get it this young. So I'm definitely one of the few, but
what you've been through is so traumatic, and it's it is, I agree that I've seen quite a bit of this now, and I actually have someone for you for bioidentical hormone replacement. So I'll send an email to you because I have your email address, but I have an amazing doctor friend who can help you, because I feel like being on hormones after having a full hysterectomy is so important because of your bone health and your heart health. What we don't realize, and what I feel like doctors fail to educate us on, is that our ovaries are producing estrogen, they're producing progesterone, testosterone. As you know, your sex drive is a big part of this now, and it's your skin and your hair and everything. And these hormones have system-wide effects. And the biggest thing with estrogen is your bones, and progesterone is your heart. And so that's why, women who are in menopause traditionally in their 50s and 60s have, those are two of the biggest problems they deal with, is osteoporosis and then heart disease. So that's why I feel like, finding the right bioidentical hormones makes the most sense. But I completely agree with you that finding people who do that is a big problem. We have
I couldn't find any. I suffered from the worst migraines with taking it was estradiol, and they changed me to another one. I got an allergic reaction from one. I've tried a holistic doctor and did attempt the natural remedies, that the black oak hash and the what was the other one they gave me? There was another one. I've tried an acupuncturist that showed me all my pressure points. There's one on my knee for hot flashes. So I would get them where it was I felt like I was literally gonna pass out mid moment. Now I'm kind of able to tolerate it. It's been a year, but it's still, it's one of those things where it's just not a normal, comfortable feeling either. So yeah, no, I haven't found any over here for sure.
I'm honestly we just have to do better by women. Women's healthcare is abysmal. And I just think that women deserve so much better. You deserve so much better than just being I give up. I can't even deal with these hormones because they make me feel terrible. And literally even questioning whether a hysterectomy is better than the endometriosis that you suffered with. It's just we need more research. When this is something too that is so crazy, is that we didn't have, women weren't required to be in research studies until the mid 90s in the US. We weren't even required. And it wasn't until 10 years ago that they were required to show the differences between the sexes in the actual results of the research studies. So we're grossly underfunded, and endometriosis is one of those, definitely.
Well, I think they don't really shed as much knowledge on it, because I don't think, well, as much as my doctor is probably a great doctor and everything, I definitely don't think I got the full knowledge of it. I think it was more so I had suggested it as kind of a joke, so what now? The last thing is just a hysterectomy and take it all out and be done with it, And he's well, if that's what you want to do, yeah, we can do that. That's probably the best option, honestly, So it wasn't really then I didn't really get schooled or taught, needless to say, what I was getting into when I woke up, or what to expect, or how I'm going to feel, or, anything like that. I didn't get any of that. So it was kind of like having to reach out to like my mother-in-law or like a friend who have had it and stuff like that are older than me. But it's still not the same thing as somebody who's my age, because theirs is, more so naturally induced and mine was medically. So I feel like there is a big difference in my body as opposed to somebody in their 50s having this done, or just having it natural menopause,
Yeah.
That's the problem I have with doctors nowadays. I feel like doctors nowadays they're salesmen. They're not real doctors. I feel like doctors should be educating you what you're about to get into. Now it feels like they're just trying to sell a product and get you into things. Or you're a test dummy. Let me see how your body reacts to this and that.
I can.
Yeah, I think I was speaking to a girl. She said that she went to the doctor to get her IUD done, taken out, and the doctor asked her why. What do you mean why? This is my body.
Yeah. Oh my God, Roosevelt, you would be stunned by how often I hear that story. And I've had women tell me, and Lisa, you might be able to relate to this, but tell me that, they've been laughed at by their doctor. They've been shamed by their doctor. They've been told that you can't take the IUD out. I've had women literally almost get into a physical altercation with their doctors because they would refuse, or they were refusing to take out an IUD or take out the arm implant, which that one.
See, I had that, but I actually ended up pregnant with that. So I don't necessarily trust that. And my sister had gotten the shot and got pregnant with that. So I'm not a birth control believer, to be honest. I mean, I'm sure it works, but it didn't work for me. So I'm not a believer.
Definitely a failure rate.
And I tried for just for, my endometriosis to try to make it better. And I have a few friends they're still going through the same thing, debating whether to have surgery, having laparoscopic surgeries, what to do, and same thing, and they don't educate, kind of like alternatives or, and I don't think there's really much awareness either. So I think like when women call out of work and stuff like that, people don't really understand that it really is a debilitating thing, like,
it's crazy that you brought that topic.
Easy.
It's crazy that you brought that topic in, because I was about to ask Nicole that. I had that in my notes to ask you that. Do you guys feel like how everybody have a sick day? Like, do you think they should do that for women when they have their periods?
They've introduced it in a few countries. Menstrual leave. Yeah, I do.
I think so.
Yeah, because we currently live in a ridiculous patriarchal society where women are expected to basically act like men and work the same amount of time that men work, even though we have cyclical bodies. Our bodies do very different things to men. We have different windows of energy versus men, where guys wake up and they've got high cortisol and high testosterone, and then it slowly drops throughout the day, and that's their
some
cycle.
Some guys got lower than testosterone.
That's true.
And that's a problem. True. Yeah, that's bad though. Yeah, that is a problem.
Yes. But we're not like that. We are literally we have a monthly cycle, and as a result, our hormones are changing. We're basically almost different people every single week of the month. I know that sounds hilarious.
But it's true, because it's like the week before,
it's not hilarious. I witness it.
The week after, and the week of normality.
Yeah.
It's do you guys feel like that's
like that?
Do you guys feel like this is a myth when guys be like, "Oh, she's just on her period"?
Yes, I can't stand that. I talk about this. I talk about this in this book. I'm like, literally, just I feel like we as a society,
it's so annoying.
Have got
it's
to
like
change
we're not
that.
allowed to have we're not allowed to have an attitude. We're not allowed to have like a moment where we're just frustrated. We're not allowed to show any sort of aggression. We're not allowed to be just annoyed, because it's she's on her period. No, I don't have a period, so now what's the excuse?
Exactly.
So what you're on? It always has to be something. So what do you say to guys when they act like that? Oh, are you PMSing? You have the same mood swings, but it's just your testosterone doing things, but you don't actually have to deal with a period. That's like a luxury.
What do you have to say to that, Roosevelt?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and act like I never used that line before. When I was younger, I used to say things like that because that's what I was taught, and that's what I heard.
Well, I don't think you were taught. I think you just observed and heard and decided to reiterate.
Yeah, like I thought that was
Your
a
mom
thing
did
at one
not
point.
teach you that it was her period, I'm sure.
Yeah, so that's what I just.
It's definitely a cultural thing for sure. Like we do that. We act like hormones and women's hormones got a bad rap. Like they just do. You're so hormonal. I'm so PMSy. It's PMS time. But it's not like PMS. I consider PMS to be like premenstrual symptoms. It's not a syndrome. There's nothing wrong with us. We're not fucking broken. Like we're just having symptoms, and they're based usually on the fact that our hormones are fluctuating. And usually what happens in that second half of your cycle when progesterone is higher, so that's that hormone in that second half that dominates your second half, I joke that it's like truth serum, because in the first half when estrogen is high, we're all so happy and everything's great. And the second half comes around and everything in your life, you're just like, oh my God, everything now is so clear. I can see the things that aren't working. So I just feel like that's what's really going on. And
So that's what
usually
that
it's
was.
just being observant. Yes, exactly. We're just like,
Yeah,
really
I'll be
waking
wondering
up.
like where all these like emotions come from out of nowhere, out of the blue. I'll be like, yo,
Oh yeah.
I be trying to weave it like the Matrix. I'll be like,
It's not out of the blue.
come
I promise.
on, yeah, out of the blue. I was like, damn. I'll be
You
like
gotta
focused on
calculate it
something
now.
else. I'll be focused on something else, and it's like, whoa,
Yep.
come on now.
I know. I think most men feel that way. They're like, what did I do? But honestly, it's like women, I think, tend to just become really reflective during that time. They tend to become more aware of what's going on or in their surroundings, in their lives. They start to be just like, okay, what's going on here? What's working? What's not working? And we tend to figure out like things are not working the way we want them to, and then suddenly we're just pissed. And so yeah, I really do think that it's just very much that time of your cycle that you're just now paying more attention. Like the rose tinted glasses have come off, so to speak.
Oh wow.
I know, sorry.
What are your what would you recommend women to do besides get birth control? Like what other options is there out here?
You know, there are not great options. We have not been presented with a lot. And thankfully, we're finally moving in the direction of male birth control options. But damn,
male?
Oh, yes. Yeah, because you guys need to be part of this too.
Your
Are you kidding?
face was epic.
I can't. I know. Look at his face. Oh my God.
Are you sweating?
I just feel like women have been responsible for this for so long. And it's time, guys. It's time. So yes, there's basal gel. So yes, it is reversible and it's getting there very slowly. But like for women, I was saying this to you, Roosevelt, and before Lisa came on about the fertility awareness based methods. And so you're using your own body's symptoms to tell you when you're fertile versus not fertile. And I feel like that is what we need to learn, because it can not only does it tell you when your fertile window is happening, but it also tells you lots of other things too. Like your basal body temperature, like I was saying earlier, you take that the first thing upon awakening, and that'll tell you when you've ovulated, because the temperature goes up right after ovulation happens, like within 24 hours. And so you'll know whether you're ovulating or not. And we all want to be ovulating because ovulating is good for health. And the other thing is too, is like paying attention to your cervical fluid. Like if you're paying attention to that to me is an amazing thing, because you can figure out if something's wrong after a while, because you know your own unique body, your own patterns. So it is one of those things where I'm a big fan of it, but I also recognize too that it's not for everyone. But so, my other one, I think like my second best, which is a far second best, is a copper IUD, because it's non-hormonal. So that, that would be another option for people too, if they don't feel comfortable learning, something like the fertility awareness method. But it's tough. It's not great out there in terms of birth control.
Oh no.
That's crazy. I can only imagine, because like, what's the age like a woman usually gets her period? Like what?
I think they're between
14?
9 and 16.
Yeah, it's getting younger
9?
now. It's really interesting. Yeah, usually, yeah. So somewhere around like 9, 8. There's some
I was
8-year-olds
16,
who are
but
getting...
I think if you're active, it tends to delay, from what
Yes.
I've been told.
Yes.
I was a gymnast and dancer my whole life, and I did diving, and I didn't get it till I was 16.
Totally.
So what I'm hearing is if you're not active, you're getting it earlier.
Well, sort of. It depends, because it depends on like body fat more than anything, because your body fat actually is an estrogen maker. So it makes estrogen. So, higher body fat, typically you'll find that girls, get their period younger. But like you were saying, Lisa, if you're really active and you've got a lot of muscle and not a lot of body fat, usually you might find you get your period later on. But yeah, somewhere between the ages of like 9 and 16. Like if you're past 16 and you haven't gotten it, then I really recommend going to a doctor.
Yeah, you're like a new breed, because that's very rare.
It is super rare. Yeah, exactly.
All right. I just wanted to end it with what are your thoughts on vaginal steaming?
Oh God, I love that you're asking this question. This is so great. I've literally never had this conversation with a guy besides Hayden. Poor thing. I know we joke that he's the period guy, my boyfriend, because he knows it all at this point.
Well, now you better do one, because he's going to be really knowledgeable after this.
Roosevelt, I feel like we need a part 2. Periods part 2.
Yeah, I know. We're going to definitely do that. We're definitely going to do that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Vaginal steaming. This is a complicated topic because, it has, as with many traditional practices, it has origins in, many different countries and with traditional cultures. And so it's been a little co-opted, but I do feel like, I started talking about this years ago when nobody was really talking about it. I feel like, Gwyneth had not come on the scene talking about vaginal steaming. So it was not a big deal. And I remember just doing it and really liking it and thinking that it was helping me. And so what I found is that women who do it, clients of mine who do it, have really great results. And they find like it's a meditative practice. They have found that it reduces heavy periods. They have found that they're, like women who have had babies and, they're trying to heal that tissue. It's really helpful depending on the different herbal, the herbs that you use within that vaginal steam itself. So there are multiple benefits to it. So yeah, I'm a big fan of it, but I know it's controversial right now to talk about it. In fact, the UK publisher of my book, they didn't want to include it because it's so controversial in the UK media that they said that I might lose credibility if I talked about it. So they kind of made me take it out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's serious, huh?
So serious. I'm like, geez, guys, it's just some hot water and some herbs. Like, this is not a big deal. But people are pretty bent out of shape about it.
That's crazy.
Like doctors basically say that women are at risk of burns. And I'm just like, we get facials. We do all kinds of things. I mean, what we do.
We get waxed. I think it's like worse. There's burn right there.
That really is the worst. I know. Like the torture that we inflict in our vaginas kills me. And then yet like vaginal steaming is going to harm us. So yeah, I could go on, but I will get off the soapbox.
Well, go ahead and tell them a little bit about your book and go ahead, get your PR sale going on.
I know, right? I feel like I know. I'll just raise this thing right here. Hi, everyone. This is my book. So I spent the last year and a half writing this beast, and I'm not a doctor. So for me as a health coach, I felt that it was really necessary to make sure that I cited everything that I said, almost everything that I said. And so I put maybe close to 500 studies in this book, because I feel like women deserve to know this information and they deserve to know that it's accurate, like that they're getting accurate information with sustainable solutions. So fix your period. And I feel like, again, I was saying this to you before, Roosevelt, before you got on, Lisa, that I really believe that having, a fundamental understanding of how your body works is our birthright. And it's so necessary for us to live empowered lives. And so you can find the book on fixyourperiod.com. It's at pretty much all booksellers. It's like period re-education or menstruation re-education. And so the first 3 chapters are all about, what is normal, what's not. And then there's a 6-week protocol, again, just walking women through or anyone who has a period really, but walking them through a sustainable plan for nutrition, gut health, how your liver impacts your hormones, your thyroid, your stress, all of it, so that we can feel better and not have to be dependent on a birth control pill or some other kind of medication. So yes, that's where it's at. And my website is NicoleJardim.com. So that's where my blog is. If anyone's wondering, has questions, I have a ton of information on my blog, but also pretty much answered every question I could ever think of about periods in this book.
Well, at least we know where we can find all our answers.
That's right.
And you have a podcast too people can tune into.
Oh yeah, right. Of course. Yes. I have a podcast called The Period Party. I think Roosevelt should come on my podcast. I feel like we'd have right? As a co-host. Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it'd be epic too. You'd be so good at it, Rose. So good at it.
I mean, yeah, I come prepared, so let me
you're
know.
So,
We can
like,
set something up.
intrigued
Okay.
by women.
I actually, you know what? I am re-recording. I'm starting back in August again, so I will totally reach out to you. It'd be so fun if we did that. I need guest co-hosts.
Yeah, let me know.
Yay.
I'll come out.
All right. Sounds good. We'll make that happen.
Your Instagram, anything like that?
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm like totally blanking. Yes, I'm on Instagram as well. It's
We're
Nicole.
just entertained at the fact that you were
like,
so intrigued by all of this.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So Nicole M. like Madeline Jardim. I'm on Instagram and I share pretty much a daily, just little bits and pieces about your menstrual cycle, what's going on with your body, periods 101, like all the things we talk about. So yes, it's sort of like the condensed version of what's on my blog and what's in the book for the most part.
Yeah, and I just feel like it doesn't hurt to understand a woman because you're gonna be married to women, so why not understand them?
Absolutely. I'm so proud of you.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Bravo.
So
I agree completely. I know. Thank you for saying that. And thank you for having me on, truly, because I really believe that when men understand this, that it completely changes your relationship with the person that you're in a relationship with. And you're like Hayden says to me, oh, you're on day 26. Okay. I know what to do now.
You got to put it in your calendar now, Rose.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not gonna lie. I do need to get better at that though. That specific thing, like, yeah, I do gotta get better on that.
Just read chapter 11 of my book, where I talk about the 4 phases of the cycle and what happens to us physically and emotionally. Once you're tuned into that, Roosevelt, you're good to go.
Yeah, but if your woman is dealing
be
with
the woman's psychic.
Because I know some women, when they take the pill or the IUD or anything like that, their periods start to become irregular. So you can't even keep track of it. So how would you deal with that?
Yeah, the pill's a whole different story though. Remember, you're not ovulating on the pill. So the pill totally messes with moods, with your brain function. So if you're on the pill, I'm nobody's doctor, so I can't say you should get off the pill, but I highly recommend women think about getting off the pill because you're not ovulating. So you're not having any of these hormonal fluctuations that you would normally have. And like I said, the side effects of the pill are well known to impact your mood. It sucks.
Dang, so when that person having sex, it doesn't go on, like, the brain's not signaling or nothing like that? Like, it's
like, no, it's just that okay, so think about this. And we were talking about this with Lisa because Lisa was saying, like, she's gone into menopause because she doesn't have her ovaries anymore. So if your ovaries, and basically what the pill is basically like medical menopause because it completely shuts your ovaries down. So you're just dependent on the fake estrogen and the fake progesterone that's in the pill to help you feel the way that your normal estrogen and progesterone would help you feel. But the problem is that it just doesn't work the same way. And so you end up with like major mood swings, the heightened risk of depression, suicidal thoughts, like all kinds of things happen because of being on the pill. And it just depends. Some of us are okay, but others have major mood-related problems and disorders. So it is one of those things.
Suicide thoughts.
Yeah, like if
it happens all the time.
All the time, and it's completely brushed away. I don't know, Roosevelt, you might not know this, but a couple of years ago they were doing a study on a male birth control pill, and the men in the study complained of lower testosterone and mood problems, and they pulled the study. Meanwhile, women have been dealing with this nonsense for many decades. So this is the problem. Like, we need to shift the balance in how birth control or the responsibility of birth control, I think.
That's crazy.
Especially because men are fertile every single day of their lives. You could impregnate someone every single day of your life for a very long time. Whereas women,
I know, if you really break that down, that's a lot of people.
Yeah. I know. So yes, I could go on.
All right. Thanks for coming on. Definitely do a part 2, and let me know when you're ready for me to come on your show.
Oh God, I can't wait. All right. Thank you guys so much for having me. This was great.
Thank you. It's so
great. Have a good one.
All right.
For culture.